What if the clearest blueprint for the future of business wasn't from one voice, but four? In the special edition 2025 highlights episode, we revisit the most powerful insights from our top conversations this year, spanning AI, wealth, creativity, and brand power. From predictive tech to cultural design, 2025 has been shaped by leaders who didn't wait for change, they built it.
The amount you can achieve today with a lean, focused team is incredible. You can reach significantly more scale than an entire marketing division who doesn't use it at all.
The wealthiest people in the world, they all follow the same framework. Breaking in, building equity, and breaking out.
We're on a rocket ship right now as we move into this AIPT era. It is going to rapidly and continuously accelerate for the next several years.
You need to know your why. Not just, it's been a while since I've made a change or my business is struggling. Like you need to have a reason why you would make such an investment in changing your visual identity system.
Welcome to the DesignRush Podcast, where we unpack how the world's top innovators reinvent design, business, and technology. I'm your host, Kia Johnson, and today we're diving into a special highlights edition featuring four of the most influential voices shaping what's next. Alex Banks, the AI strategist, rewriting how leaders think about technology. Emmy Sobieski, the MegaWealth coach, guiding the world's top equity builders. Tom Butler, the Lenovo executive, ushering in the AI PC era. And Gerards, the creative force behind the global identity of Lay's and PepsiCo brands. Together, they reveal the ideas and the systems defining the next era of innovation. In this episode, you'll hear how to scale faster with AI, build wealth through equity, not effort, design brands that live meaningfully in culture, and make smarter decisions in a world where speed and creativity win. If you lead brand, agency, or tech team, hit subscribe. The ideas in this episode will help you stay ahead of the people shaping what comes next.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Alex Banks. I am the founder of The Signal, a weekly newsletter that cuts through the AI noise to over 40,000 readers. I'm also the founder of GrowHub, an AI writing tool to help busy professionals build their personal brand on LinkedIn. And I wanted to welcome you all to the DesignRush Podcast.
Alex, you've built The Signal into one of the most influential AI newsletters in the world. I mean, you're reaching over 40,000 industry professionals and over 1 million people weekly on social media. I mean, that is amazing. Now, AI itself is actually evolving at a frenzied pace. And decision makers, I mean, your CEOs, your CMOs, and your agency leaders, they're actually being bombarded with AI trends, AI tools, and like game-changing technologies every day. So if you were in their shoes, trying to separate real AI opportunities from the hype, where would you start?
You know, okay, this is such a good question. I think the foundational truth here is that you have to be a truth seeker in this world of AI and generative AI. There is so much noise and so much buzz around this ecosystem. You have to be incredibly discerning about where you get your information from, given that there is so much hype and a lot of jargon and noise thrown around in the online spheres. So, you know, if I was really trying to cut through that, you know, it's very important to seek out the truth through whichever platforms you hang out, right? That could be X, that could be LinkedIn, those could be digestible newsletters, and finding the ones which you resonate with, right? One size isn't going to fit all, and it's up to you as an individual to find that source of truth. As a busy professional, apply these tactics to your life in a really useful way. And I think these are these sort of overarching themes here. There are so many resources out there for you to go and try, so many courses, so many products for you to sink your teeth into. And I think the real key is just getting stuck in, right? Just trying, using these tools, seeing what you like, seeing what you don't like, whether that be the tone of Claude against the sort of colder tone of, say, ChatGPT, and just really being a discerning user. I think that's really the key takeaway that us as individuals, as professionals must have moving forward, because at the end of the day, there will never be a technology that will diffuse as fast as AI in our lifetimes. And it's up to us to ultimately stay on that cutting edge there.
What would you say is actually the single biggest misconception then that business leaders have about
AI specifically in marketing today?
Yeah, I think the biggest misconception would be that AI is a done for you solution. It's a click one button and your marketing strategy is set. I think it's such a big misconception where individuals often see it as an easy way out to hand over their creativity to AI, where in fact, Kia, the best solutions come from human creativity injected through AI, to which you can achieve an output that is far greater than if it was just you or the AI alone. And I think that insight has to be imperative to help you define your strategy, to help you define where it is you want to position yourself as an enterprise, because at the end of the day, if you aren't paying attention to it, you will get left behind. But if you are doing too much, if you're handing too much over, that person will easily be found out, if that makes sense. For example, I spend a tremendous amount of time on LinkedIn, and the influx of AI generated content from even executives, right? It is flooding my timeline and the comment section. So by being, as I mentioned previously, a discerning user of these tools, infusing your own stories, your notes, your insights, when you're playing around, when you're building campaigns, when you're building strategies, even writing a LinkedIn post, for goodness sake, and actually getting something that is useful, unique, and perhaps blends insights across boundaries. And I think if you can do that, that will set the stage very, very nicely for yourself and your company.
We're seeing AI predict the customer behavior, and you were just kind of touching on that right now before they even act, right? So some actually call this the holy grail of marketing. I mean, well, others actually call it a privacy nightmare. So from your perspective, do brands truly understand the magnitude?
We are only scratching the surface of what is possible here and the insights that we can generate and ultimately deliver in terms of new information that we're going to offer our customers, but also that we're going to receive, right? The amount of information that we will now understand about you as an individual, your buying preferences, your behavior, your predictability is going to be wholly unprecedented, Kia. And how that affects you as a marketer, I guess, is in a couple of ways, right? It's the sort of devil in the detail whereby you are now loaded with so much unique insights and information about who your customers are, where they live, what they're doing, who they do for work, and what that means is it, on the one hand, empowers you to deliver very, very personalized insights. On the other hand, it's incredibly sensitive information that you have to be thoughtful about how you use and how you proceed to target. So I think we're only scratching the surface of this, because marketers, asking ChatGPT to write your next email campaign is very different from pulling on the last 1,000 email campaigns that were sent to John, and how John's going to feel when you send this new email that was a collection of all the responses and all the sort of open times and feedback and everything that you've received from him as a customer in this new email, right? These are two completely different paradigms that we're going to see moving forward. We had the ChatGPT moment back in November 2022. Now we're finding these really interesting edge use cases that are going to turn mainstream when that comes to truly predicting buyer behavior, and where that will help influence, but also dictate where you are going to position yourself, not only as a marketeer and your marketing strategy, but your organization as a whole.
You've worked alongside billionaires and you've helped friends achieve $100 million milestones. I mean, you've consistently built empires by trusting your instincts and taking decisive action. So what would you say has actually been the most cherished moment of your career so far?
So one would think that my most cherished, most fun moments were when I made a successful $200 million trade, but they're not. The most cherished moments for me are when I see my mentees exceed what I've ever done. When they make more money than I've ever made, when they're far more successful, when by age 29, I can't even understand what they're doing. When they describe their job and what they do day to day. And it's just makes me super proud. A little confused, but super proud.
Do you feel like there's a step-by-step that you do with everyone that you need to take? Can you take us through a little bit of that?
Yeah. So there's what I call there's frameworks that you can look at the wealthiest people in the world, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, you can look at them and you can look at the top billionaire venture capitalists, and they all follow the same framework. So there's definitely framework. And then there's also room for customizing because each person has their own unique path. And so typically I use two main frameworks. One is called the 3 Bs, which is breaking in, building equity, and breaking out. Breaking in is obviously, okay, you decide on an industry, you decide on a career path. Now you've got to break in and learn your skills. Once you've learned skills, you can start getting paid equity for part of your compensation. And then the breaking out, and that's kind of seeding your opportunity to have step function increases in your wealth as soon as you start building equity. And then breaking out is when you have a fully activated, what I call money flywheel of equity positions in multiple different kind of pockets. And so that money flywheel is what I call the Silicon Valley secret. And if you go into Silicon Valley, you'll run into people that are working in private markets, and they're building a company, and a couple of their friends are building other companies. So they're investing in a couple companies their friends are building. They're maybe advising a couple others that are a little, 10% behind them, and they're doing build, invest, advise. You go anywhere else in the world and people either have their jobs or they're running their agency, and that's it. And they don't think about their career in this build, invest, advise. And so the breaking out piece of the 3 Bs, that last piece, is when in the building equity phase, you were, say, working for a startup or working at an agency where you're starting to build equity and you own the agency. So you're working and you're building a company. And then you're advising a couple of others and you're getting paid in cash plus equity. And you're also investing either as a scout for venture capital if you're working in a hot area, or you're just investing in interesting companies that you see or interesting companies that you're doing work with. And what happens is then your other investors may say, hey, there's this other company that needs advice, or your other advisors on your board of advisors might find your next build opportunity. Maybe you want to build multiple companies at once. And so each one feeds off each other, and it creates what I call a money flywheel, but it's also an opportunity flywheel. And so if we back up and just look at, let's say we look at a billionaire like Elon Musk, he's mostly a builder. But when he was thinking about buying Twitter, he was on the board of directors. So he dabbles in advising, but mostly he invests in his own businesses and builds his own businesses, but he also holds so much equity that he's build, invest. So you don't have to have all three components. Look at Bill Gurley, a very famous venture capitalist at Benchmark. He is on a lot of board of directors, and he is an investor, as a professional investor. So he's not a builder. He hasn't built companies. Look at Mark Andreessen at Andreessen Horowitz. He is an investor, but he started out building multiple companies with Horowitz, with his partner. And so with Ben Horowitz. And so he's done build, invest, advise, but he's moved from one to the other. One of my mentees that I started with when she was in college, she has moved back and forth between the areas. So she started at Coinbase building. While she was at Coinbase, they allowed her to also invest in other coins. Then she started a hedge fund, so she moved over to invest. But during that time, she was advising other projects. And now she discovered this company she was super passionate about. After 6 years of running her hedge fund, she closed it to new investors. And now she's fully immersed in building while still advising other companies. And so you can move around the build, invest, advise, but you're just building these equity stakes. And what this ends up doing is, in an environment in private markets, whether you're an agency owner or whether you're diving into tech startups, 90% of companies fail after 5 years, in the first 5 years. And so but when you're successful, the upside is massive, because you look at all of the top richest people, they're all owners, right? They're all company owners. And so you don't want to take away the upside. And so the strategy that I espouse and these frameworks is a way to kind of seed multiple equity stakes in areas where you have a lot of knowledge, you've done the research, and there's huge upside. So it gives you all the upside without as much risk because you diversify.
How important do you think disruptive thinking is for brand leaders? And can you actually quickly help define what disruptive thinking means to you?
Absolutely. So to me, disruptive thinking means first principles thinking, and never has it been as important as it is today. And I hate to bang on the AI drum once again, but we've got to figure out as an agency owner, when the leaders in AI are saying there are going to be more AI agents than people on the planet. There are going to be billions of these things. And you're an agency owner. Are you going to be part of that process? Are you going to help people build these agents? Are you going to have these agents working for you? Like, how is that going to be? And if you don't, and so for me, disruptive thinking is purely first principles thinking, because when a disruption happens and you're not thinking in first principles and you're thinking about the way that it's always been done, you're going to get obliterated. If you think in first principles of how can we help our clients, how can we grow the business, how can we deliver more value, and how can AI maybe make us have two businesses. One is an agency business and one is a software as a service business that is helping other people spin up agencies using AI.
What top 3 critical qualities do you think businesses must prioritize when selecting an agency partner?
What do people tell you when selecting real estate? Location, 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 right? It's like, what are the 3 top things in real estate? Location, 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 right? And then my friends will say to me that are real estate brokers, they'll say, well, just have like 3 things that you need, like higher ceilings or whatever, that are kind of your things. But at the end of the day, it's location, location, location. And so for me, with having worked with a lot of agencies over the last 4 or 5 years, character, because things are going to go wrong.
Yes.
And I've had things go wrong and agency owners just disappear. And I've had other things go wrong and an agency owner that barely knows me is like, hey, I've got a bunch of levers. I could loan you some money. I could do this or that. And I'm like, I don't even know this person that well. Right. And they're really like acting like a human being. How do you know the character of the people that run it before you go there? And I think that is looking through their website, not at the testimonials that people give, but possibly for figuring out kind of under the cover who else has worked with them that maybe they're not highlighting, and try to talk to some other people, not just the ones that they give you, that have worked with that agency. And I think for me, that's the biggest thing is character. And then you've got to figure out, is this the right mix? Nobody's perfect. Is it the right mix for you? And are they really the character that they say they are?
If you were to say, like, very simply, what it actually means for the average business user when their computer is AI enabled, what picture would I see?
Yeah. So think of it, we talk a lot about the future of AI devices. Is it's going to be an AI digital twin? So in today's terms, if I just step back from that, think of it like a digital teammate or a personal assistant. So that's contained in your device. And so now it's going to start looking at or analyzing patterns of how you work. It's going to look at how it can automate repetitive tasks, how it can summarize meetings for you. It can, as I said earlier, it can block phishing threats or potential attack security issues. It can even help generate content for you. So we categorize these into a group that we call 3 Ps: personalization, protection, and productivity. And if you think of those outcomes, any outcome we're trying to drive that's supplemented or augmented by AI can be bucketed into one of these 3 Ps. And it's all happening on device, which is really exciting.
Who is the most impressive executive or innovator that you've encountered along your path and journey? Yeah.
There's no shortage of brilliant minds in this space. And in AI, we're effectively going through a major pivot in the industry. Like we've seen, to be honest, we haven't seen it this pivotal. If I go back into the past, I'm talking about really the .com era. And I date myself when I say that, but the .com era was a sweeping, innovative era that we went almost overnight from, well, effectively no internet to internet. And, and we're gone from that same sweeping era from no AI to AI. I would say, when I look at the leadership across the tech space, I've always been impressed with leaders who can zoom out and see and articulate a grand vision or roadmap or a North Star, but they can also come back down and drive down into product or solution execution. So you see the forest from the trees, so to speak. If I look at my track into leadership, I've always been influenced by great leaders inside Lenovo as well, who really drive that zoom in, zoom out, but are constantly listening to the voice of the customer, the voice of the market, because we spend a tremendous amount of our time engaging with customers. And when I sit down with customers, I talk about the future. I don't talk about, hey, here's what I have today, please buy something, but it's about, here's what I'm thinking about next. What do you think? Well, tell me what problems you're trying to solve. And that's super critical for us, because then when I go back to those customers every year, I can say, well, here's what you told me last year, and here's what I did about this. Here's how and you're helping me change and influence the market. So I would say that's the style of leadership I look to and aspire to be, is really that listening to the voice of the customer.
If you could sit down with like one global tech leader to actually tackle the next generation of AI innovation together, who would it be? And then also, what would you want to figure out with them?
I'd love to sit down with Jensen Huang to really tackle two issues with AI. One is the ethical use, and the second is sustainable use of AI. Now, ethical use is actively being worked, aggressively being worked, because when you start thinking about the use of the data, you got to put security, privacy, you got to put guardrails around it. Then what do you do? How does the data being used? So that one I think is being actively or being worked. I think the sustainable use is a second component that, we're moving at such a rapid pace or evolution. We're kind of skipping over the fact that these large models that are being run in the cloud, in the data center, consume a tremendous amount of power, tremendous amount of GPUs. And so that power is a major concern if you think about the sustainable use. Now, what I'm excited about is as we move into more of a hybrid stance, we're able to leverage the power of the devices, the AI PCs that are now coming out into market. Those draw power at a much lower power state, and so you can accomplish a lot at the edge. And so you're starting to benefit as we can bring models, and especially the agentic models, down to device to execute locally without having to go up into cloud. That's going to help on the sustainable use of AI. And so I think that's really is equally as important. But that would be the conversation that Jensen and I would have if I was to have coffee with him tomorrow.
So, Carl, Lay's has just unveiled its biggest brand refresh in nearly 100 years. Why was now the right time to make such a bold move?
We're almost a 100-year-old brand, and our last visual redesign was in 2016. So in the modern term, that's a really long period of time to be in one consistent look. The world has changed. I think people's way of shopping, people's way of interacting with the brands that they buy, especially in the grocery store, is changing. And we felt like we had a really powerful story to tell on Lay's, which is the biggest brand in really the potato chip category and the chip category and many food categories. We've been rooted in real potatoes for our entire history. And people had kind of forgotten that fact a little bit. They know our chip, they know the iconic brands, they know the joy we bring, they know our Super Bowl commercials, but they had, maybe forgotten a little bit where we came from. And we thought there was an opportunity to tell that story in a much stronger way. So we retooled the visual identity system to be able to tell our story in an authentic way.
Can you actually take us inside like the design process? What were the biggest breakthroughs or like the turning points that you had along the way?
Yeah. So, it's a fantastic experience to come into a brand like this that does have this history and get a chance to shape its next generation. You research a lot. You learn about the past. You learn about the brand around the world and how people have experienced it. You interact with teams that have been working on it for a long time and get under the skin of what it is. You talk with the people who love the brand and learn about what made them love it in the first place. And we found so many incredible things through this process. This was something we did as the PepsiCo Design Center. It's our design function within PepsiCo. We have over 300 designers around the world. And, we partner globally and locally to understand the brand relevance. We start really with a 360 process, right? We have these ideas that we prototype that, okay, what if the brand told the story in this way? What if the visual identity came to life in this way? Would that be meaningful for the people that love this brand? We try a lot of things on very rapidly. And, we do a rapid prototype process where we're trying them on, we're showing them around, we're getting internal, feedback. We're showing them to real people that love the brand and understand what they love about it. And I think, starting a big thing like this, you take it on in full and then you break it down into its pieces and you kind of give it a flow.
What advice would you actually give to leaders who want to make a bold, confident design decision like Lays did, one that's strong enough to reshape their identity?
You need to know your why. You really need to know your why in the beginning, not just it's been a while since I've made a change or my business is struggling. Like you need to have a reason why you would make such an investment in changing your visual identity system. It is the tool that you will use to express everything about your brand, your logo, your packaging, your campaign ideas, your social media, your brand experiences. It is the creative expression tool for those things. And so you have to have a really strong why, because all of those things I just mentioned as well, those are going to change over time. You might need to have a different campaign message. You may need to activate in a different vertical. You may need to flex into different places. So have a really, really good reason why. And I will also say, resilience is needed to do one of these things because of the length of time that they take to implement in the world. You have to be really sure of why you're doing it, because you can lose the faith over the process. You can go, is this really worth the investment? Is this really worth the work? There's going to be some places I call the messy middle where you're in transition and everything kind of feels like, how is it ever going to connect? And then you get past it. So you have to be brave and you have to be resilient and you have to really know your why. That would be my best advice to anyone trying to make a big, bold change.
Curious about what top brands look for when choosing an agency? Tune into our latest episodes where we reveal the decision-making secrets of leading brands. Subscribe to the DesignRush Podcast and stay ahead of the competition.